In the order, the agenda Oromocto Council and Committee meeting Wednesday, February 12th, 2025 at 5:30 p.m. The Oromocto Municipal Building. I'll call for a mover for approval of the agenda. Councillor Dodd, seconder. Deputy Mayor Moini, questions? All in favor? Contrary? Motion carried. We have a presentation from Ignite today. We've got Hannibal and we've got Andrew Lockhart here. So the floor is you guys. You're gonna have a, you know.
I see it behind the other things.
All right, I'll just slide this.
That's medium fit.
Go.
Well, thank you for having us here with you this evening. We're going to be covering a little bit of an update of where we're at with the economic development strategy that we've been working on. And I'll also give you a little highlight reel of 2024 and everything that's to come in 2025 in terms of support from Ignite. So we've been working on the economic development strategy for the past year, and we have developed a vision, which is that Oromocto will become a regionally recognized community fostering innovation and engagement. And the strategic areas that the plan focuses on are strategic land development, business development, workforce development, housing availability, and community promotion and engagement. The action items for strategic land development are built on optimizing land resources to support economic growth, particularly in the commercial and light industrial sectors. The strategy also aims to enhance infrastructure to accommodate the growing business needs. So this approach will help to ensure that the town remains attractive to investors and businesses that are looking to establish and expand their operations in the town. For business development, this would play a crucial role in the economic development strategy. With the support of partners such as Ignite, entrepreneurs and existing businesses will be assisted through a variety of targeted initiatives, growth, retention, and expansion, allowing them to have the resources they need to thrive. So this could include networking opportunities, mentorship programs, as well as access to funding. For workforce development, this is built on having a strong and skilled workforce, which is essential for long-term economic success. The strategy focuses on attracting, retaining, and upskilling workers to meet the evolving demands of businesses and industries in the town. Partnerships with community partners such as Ignite will be developed to ensure that locals are equipped with the necessary skills to enter and stay in the workforce. So this would include training programs, job fairs, and employer support services to facilitate and bridge gaps in the labor supply. For housing availability, to accommodate the growth of the town, there will be an increase in housing availability. The strategy initiatives will encourage the construction of multi-unit and mixed-use developments that align with strategic residential growth areas. And then lastly, for community promotion and engagement, there are a lot of opportunities to promote Oromocto's unique identity. So the strategy will focus on how to engage residents and external stakeholders in promoting Oromocto's rich history, military presence, and its proximity to natural attractions, which will reinforce its appeal as a place to live, work, and do business. So as part of our process, we engaged in a community feedback survey. And the community engagement played a pivotal role in really shaping and finalizing the draft of the economic development strategy for the town of Oromocto. The feedback from those who participated in the survey highlighted that many residents expressed a need for high quality jobs and support for local businesses. Respondents also emphasized the importance of improved public infrastructure as a way to better connect the community and facilitate economic development. There was a call for diverse retail options, recreational facilities, and cultural venues to support a vibrant and self-sustaining community throughout the town. When we took a look at all the feedback, we were happy to see that it aligned well with what the committee had developed for the strategy. So it just took a little bit of refinement based on the feedback that we got. Oh, and then next steps. So if the strategy is approved by council, the next steps will focus on translating the plan into action. So an implementation of timelines to be established for the strategic areas, as well as involving key stakeholders to kickstart these action items. Additionally, monitoring and evaluation frameworks will be implemented, allowing for regular updates, progress assessments, and any necessary adjustments. So 2024 was a great year, but we're very excited to see all that will take place in 2025. And just a few highlights of what happened in terms of business support in 2024. There were oh my goodness, sorry. The creation of 30 jobs were supported. There was approximately 2.6 million in GDP contribution from the support of Ignite in terms of jobs and counseling hours. And then also there was one business that was awarded $15,000 in C grant funding to support the growth of their business. In 2025, we are ready to hit the ground running here in Oromocto. We are doing a lunch and learn series of 4 different workshops in collaboration with the Oromocto and Area Chamber of Commerce. We've been really working on building and strengthening our relationship with MFRC. We're hoping to do more collaborative initiatives with them throughout the year. And we've been having a really strong referral system going with them. We're hoping to host a job fair in Oromocto in the spring, and we will also be running some of our regularly scheduled programming for business growth multiple times throughout the year here in Oromocto. Thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions?
Any questions or comments, council? I like the idea of the spring job fair. Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, thank you, Richard. Thank you for the presentation. Quick question on a couple slides back. Oh, yeah, that one. When it says actively engage community members and members of the OAC for feedback on the strategy. My question is what was your sample size in terms of how many people did you get feedback from? How many groups did you get feedback from? And so on?
Yeah, so we had 32 responses, and in my opinion, it was really quality over quantity in terms of the responses we got. Those who engaged in our survey provided really meaningful feedback. There was not a question that was missed. They wrote paragraphs and elaborated and expanded on their answers. So although the survey was out for 30 days and we got 32 responses, I believe that they were from people who were really engaged and wanted to contribute. So
That's good. Thank you.
Council on Victor.
Thank you, Your Worship. I had a question about one of the strategic action items.
pardon?
I have a question on one of the workforce development action items.
Yeah.
I'm a little, behind the times when it comes to HR terminology these days. But I was looking at the second last item, develop a workplace value proposition to equip employers with a strategy for recruitment. It was on to talk about the specific workforce development value proposition, but my recollection of the value proposition is it's pretty clear when you're the actual employer. It's why you should work here, why they want to work here, all that total pie that goes along with that whole thing. But how does that look for a municipality in developing to ensure employers have that in place? Is that the role you see the municipality doing, making sure they're aware of what it is and why they should have one? Or would you see us leading those workshops?
So I believe it would be more on Ignite sense. So we have the business growth pillar and the workforce development pillar. So it would be on the workforce development side of the shop to really ensure that those connections are made, and not only with businesses in the community, but if there are newcomers or anyone who's looking to relocate to Oromocto, knowing all that the business community has to offer.
Okay, good, thanks.
Any other questions or comments, council? Yeah. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you very much.
So I know, your worship, just to elaborate on that, I mean, everybody's gotten the package in their report, and they probably saw a request for decision from Peter in there with regards to just that first step that Hannibal referenced to in terms of trying to get a resolution to at least approve the strategy at this point, so that we can take that next step and then develop the the action items from it. So that's, I know, if there's questions for Peter and I on that part, certainly we're willing to take them, but we'd be looking to create a resolution for next week's meeting to that vein. So just want to make sure everybody's okay with that. You know, largely based on what the work that's been done in the report and the package.
Well, I think, council, that's warm and fuzzy. I think everyone's nodding and there's a lot of good work in here and some good information and, I'm quite impressed with it, actually, so. Yeah. Well, you got the okay?
Perfect.
All right, thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Stay safe in the snow.
Yeah, and Sunday. So we'll move down to administration. We'll start with 4A, the policy amendments. We'll start with 4A1, the workplace violence and harassment. But Peter's gonna have that.
Yep, so this is our monthly policy update, so people we try to break down throughout the year, we continually update policies, make sure they're up to standards, pay standards and things like that. So what I want to bring forward this month is 419, which is called Employee Code of Conduct's Respectful Workplace. This is the formerly named the Respectful Workplace anti-harassment. So what we've done here is we wanted to make this the code of conduct a standalone policy. We'll add with this the code of conduct that you see on our website. That was written more geared towards counselors and CAOs. So this 490 here will be more geared towards staff and organization. So that's the code of conduct. It's outlined to expect behaviors and standards, ethical standards for the staff in the organization, and principles and values that we are to adhere to as a staff here. And then so we created 4135, which will house that workplace violence and harassment policy. So we did some updates to provide additional guidance from WorkSafe NB, and then capture that into harassment policy language that came out of the previous one. So just seeking the authorization, the resolution to put these into effect.
Questions or comments, council? I think it's pretty cut and dry. Yeah. All right, we'll go down to 4A2, the Code of Conduct Respectful Workplace.
Yeah, so that was part of all of that.
Oh, they're all together.
They're all still with 35, so
Yeah.
got them all together there. Because they all sort of mesh.
He rolled them all together, yeah, and then that's good, and two, just as a point and note, we did have an older policy. That kind of had both of them sort of meshed together or parts of, in particular, the workplace code of conduct and a respectful workplace and then harassment. But what we were finding, particularly with staff, was they would get those two things confused with, you know, right to manage is not harassment, or nor is it disrespectful, but at the same time, so we wanted to make sure that those two were split apart so they didn't become kind of confused together, while on top of, we really, to Peter's point, didn't really have a succinct code of conduct for employees. You may all recall we did one for yourselves. And even myself, but not necessarily from an employee basis. So to Peter's point, that's where we turn one into two more you know, descriptive and elaborate policies.
Councilor Bluff?
Thank you, Lisa. just referencing the two policies, so you're going to they're going to replace these two and take down the old ones and not use those?
The old code of conduct that relates to council and that CAL, that will stay.
Right.
Does it reference us in these policies as well?
In the 490,
No, just.
and then if they do, then that's.
In workplace violence and harassment, definitely, yeah, under the scope. What I saw in the two scopes are different, but not excluding the elected officials, but they're referencing full-time, part-time, they're naming very specific, where in the other one it doesn't. I wondered if there was a reason for that.
Yes, so the code of conduct one is naming specifics because we wanted to target staff really, because the other code of conduct is already in place for council.
Right.
So that's why there's, and then so the 135 is really for everybody to workplace violence and harassment.
So the volunteer firefighters are specific to 135, but they aren't in the other one. Is there a reason for that one? It's really the definition of scope and who is included in it that I'm wondering why you spelled out specifically in one, but not in the other, when it both is really affecting all of us.
Yeah, that's a good point on the volunteer firefighters. There's always been a bit of a discussion if they were true employees in that sense. They're employees sort of underneath the work safe, where you really have to train them and keep them safe. So we'll do some more research on that. If we need to make an amendment to include firefighters, I think we will.
And that's one of the first things I noticed, Peter, this when I was reading it, the scope I'm back on the code of conduct was very minimum, but yet the other one is enlarged quite a bit. And since they're both really hand in hand, I wondered why, that's all.
Yeah, I mean, your worship, we can look into the volunteer firefighters piece. It is more specific on the workplace violence and harassment. And again, the code of conduct's a little more specific to employees only, because you yourselves already are bound by a current code of conduct. That policy will not disappear. This will be in addition to that one. What you're not necessarily seeing in your code of conduct is violence or harassment. So that is where you would see yourselves in this one from that perspective. Because again, we expect that although it has to do with code of conduct, more specifically, I guess we would expect that you wouldn't harass or get violent with any one of your colleagues or us as a member of council or on a committee. As to the specificity of the volunteer firefighter, we'll look into that one. There is some gray there. They, by definition, under work safe, they certainly are an employee. By labor standards, they're not. They're volunteers. So that might be the reason you're not seeing it in the employee code of conduct, but we can confirm that before next Thursday. But I think that might be why you don't see that in there more specifically, but we'll double check and make sure we get back to you on that one.
If it's not, I think it should be.
Well, again,
Personally.
yeah, if the labor laws don't suggest by virtue that a volunteer is an employee, I can't necessarily write them in as such, but I understand what you're saying. I just, we'll have to look in. Right, it may not.
But it does, do they not fall under including employees? I'm looking now at the scope of code of conduct and respectful workplace. Do we make the assumption that that's where it falls in? And I'm just trying to eliminate.
Right, and so we want to make sure we eliminate those assumptions, because I'm not sure myself at this point. I just having worked a bit with on some other things related to work safe. There's no doubt that tells us most specifically that a volunteer firefighter, when it relates to being safe at work, is an employee under their legislation, but general labor laws, a volunteer is not an employee.
That's right.
And so that's where we'll have.
Well,
to
there's
dig
something
in.
has to be done for that.
Right,
It
Yeah.
doesn't fall under this.
right.
Because they do get a
We'll
residual,
find it. There might be something.
so
that
there is
sometime-
pay involved, slight, but it's.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a per diem, and again, that's part of that whole grayness of, yes, you do pay them a per diem, but many organizations pay volunteers per diems. And by labor laws, it doesn't make them employees, but so,
Why it's paid now.
right, so we'll look into it, make sure, and if we get a clear answer for you, we'll certainly get it out to you before next week.
Thank you.
I know. Good work, Councilor. All right. Thanks, Peter. We'll go down to 4B, the 23rd January 2025 draft. The regular session minutes are before you. If there's any errors or omissions, please let Jillian know before she gets her new job.
Oh, it won't matter, it'll still be the same in my new job. I'll still be here if needed.
Righto. So on that note, I'll call for a mover for an adjournment. Councilor Kirkbride, seconder. Councilor Carr, questions? All in favor? Contrary? Motion carries. There's no